go. Hi, Kent Lewis, president and founder of Anvil Media. I'm happy to share with you today the Anvil's 2020 digital marketing predictions. If you're not aware, Anvil Media's regular Lunch and Learn webinar series is roughly a monthly event. So make sure you come back to the Anvil events page or the webinars page to look for future and upcoming webinars as well as archived webinars. So with that said, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is if you are on the social media, you're welcome to follow me on Twitter at Kent J. Lewis. You can follow Anvil as well at Anvil Media. And you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn as well at Kent Lewis. So a little bit about me before we get started with our predictions. I founded Anvil in 2000. It's one of 9 agencies I've been a part of. And I've also been a part of an email marketing agency and background in PR. And so all of that has come together to kind of formulate and inform Anvil's measurable marketing services, which primarily are focused on paid search and social and organic search engine optimization. I've also been an adjunct at Portland State University in their continuing education program. I teach a search engine marketing workshop once a year roughly, and my next workshop is coming up in February. Hope you'll join me. Just Google PSU SEM workshop or check out the events section of the Anvil website. And if you're looking to network or grow your network or your career, go to pdxmindshare.com. That's the orange and black logo of the faces. And we have a job board, event board, a blog. We have the state of Oregon's largest LinkedIn group with over 11,000 members. And I've spoken regularly at events. I've written for write regularly for Portland Business Journal and Smart Brief. I just yesterday did my quarterly social media workshop for SCORE here in Portland. And I'm a founding member, former president and advisory board member for SEMPDX.org, Search Engine Marketers of Portland. So I come from the digital dark arts since around 1996 and have been building teams since 97, 98. Anvil since 2000. So a little bit of context for you. Today, we're going to talk about a recap of our 2019 predictions. Starting in 2004, we started making predictions in December for the following year. So in our case, the first year of predictions was 2005, back when we predicted the year of mobile for 2005. And honestly, it was a couple of years after that that mobile really took off. Once the iPhone came out, and rolled out, then things really started to explode on that front. Then we're going to talk a little bit about 10 digital marketing predictions. We're going to pick 10 of those for 2020. I'll leave you with a few resources, and then if we have any questions, we'll move into a Q&A. So let's get started. Number one, recap for our 2019 predictions. These were made in December 2018 by the Anvil Media team. Our number one prediction was brands will make major strides in in-game and eSports sponsorships and related advertising opportunities. So eSports, e-gaming, brand opportunities. And when we made that prediction, it was not really on anybody's radar. And most certainly we gave ourselves an A because 2019 was a breakout year for eSports sponsorships and e-gaming sponsorships and advertising. And this year will be even bigger. But 2019 was a breakout year for that, so we gave ourselves a good grade. Number two, with search growing more prevalent, Google will introduce campaigns specifically for voice-assisted devices. So we've been talking about voice search for over 2 years. The idea of, okay, Google and hey Siri, do this for me, answer a question for me. And Google has made it a priority for the last 3 or so years to create something called rich snippets, where there's only one good answer, that one best answer for any given question, for common questions in Google. And that's on a screen search. You'll see one answer with a drop down and a reference to a brand or the source website, or on an audio smart speaker or personal device, digital assistant, they'll give you voice out the answer. Interestingly, 2 years ago, we assumed that 2019 would be the year of advertising opportunities in voice search. So best answers could get sponsored, that sort of thing on the major personal digital devices and smart speakers, and that has not happened. So we gave ourselves a D. We are looking at the idea that voice-assisted devices, smart speakers, and digital assistants we think that there's likely a 2020 breakthrough, but we didn't make it a 2020 prediction because we think really 2021 will be the breakout year since so little traction was made last year, including with Amazon Alexa's device not doing anything in that regard yet. Answer engine optimization, little typo there, AEO, and research engine optimization, REO, will replace the outdated SEO model. Again, we gave ourselves a D. We were a little too forward looking there. AEO and REO are not really happening at the breadth and scope that we thought it might happen. Again, going back to the whole voice, aforementioned voice assisted and smart speaker adoption. While it's been big, not a lot of advertising models, still a lot of usage and growth opportunity there. So we gave ourselves a D. I would say look for that in the next 2 to 3 years, becoming more of a reality. So jump the gun a bit on number 3. Our fourth prediction was voice assistants will enter more homes and businesses than ever before. And that was true. We thought that 2018 was going to be the high growth year. But then we took a risk and said 2019 will be even bigger. And it was. The saturation with over 100 million devices in homes that have our smart speakers or voice assistants answering questions and everything has been a massive growth curve. And I think it'll grow at an increasingly, it'll grow at a decreasing rate moving forward, let's say. So this was a big growth year in 2019 last year. Number 5, blockchain is going to lie low. Interestingly, most people predicted blockchain would explode. We thought, no, we don't think it's quite ready yet. And we gave ourselves a B+. Yeah, I could argue an A-. Blockchain, particularly around the Bitcoin side of things, there were a lot of setbacks with theft and hacking and some black eyes around the technology. Blockchain overall, though, it is happening slowly, carefully, methodically, tracking, manufacture of anywhere from prepping food to manufacture of shoes or other apparel. Big brands like Nike are looking at it, but the adoption is slow and steady. So it wasn't the blowout year; it was actually a lie low year. So we actually hit that one pretty close on. 2019 prediction: video trends will increase in marketing, messaging, and media. So video usage, video adoption. Was there significantly more use of video and creative in different ways around marketing and in messaging and in email and other forms of media? And we believe the answer is not really. Steady growth, not exponential growth, and in some cases, sort of flat growth. In terms of adopting video, incorporating into emails, I didn't see any rapid growth there. It's kind of flat. When we look at use in websites, pretty flat. So video has been one of my hot buttons for a decade of do more of it, please. Turns out that there's still a lot of room for growth there. Our 7th prediction for 2019, virtual reality will finally go mainstream. And we were off on that. I could say C-, arguably. There's a little bit of buzz around it, around what Facebook was doing originally. 18, there's a lot of news around Oculus Rift and other brands working on different products like Microsoft. But the reality is VR is not a very applicable, useful implementation for brands, broad reaching to consumers. It's good for certain niche industries and applications. And I honestly think that AR would have been a safer bet. And even then it would have been a B in terms of AR is definitely going more mainstream than VR probably ever will, in at least the near future. But in our case, we say C on the virtual reality going big. It actually arguably lied low. Prediction, local SEO will get sexier. That's a C-. We're just thinking, no, local SEO, local search, optimization, your local listings, not a lot of change there, not as much as we were hoping. It's still monotonous, complicated, and frustrating for brands in particular, and secondarily for consumers. Reviews are still a real headache for brands. So we were a little bit off on the local SEO side of things. Maybe a little more improvement this year in 2020. Gen Z will call for increased brand transparency and greater connection with purpose. So basically, we predicted that the new both millennials and Gen Z are saying it's essential for brands to be transparent about things like influencer marketing, ingredients, sources, and then be more purpose-driven, purpose-based, or more transparent about what their purpose is, And for the large part, that has been the news trend for most of 2019. It's all about transparency. Brands that were opaque were getting in trouble. The sense of purpose the brands have has really come out and bubbled up to the forefront of their advertising and their messaging. So we give ourselves an A on that. And then lastly, Amazon will create its own SEO position zero. So not only is there not a voice search answer for Amazon for the advertising side, there's no real position zero in their search results. So D on that. Now they promised us in 18 they wouldn't be doing any of this. In 19, we just took a bet that why wouldn't they? And they were true to their word, which is a bummer for us in some degrees perspectives. But generally speaking, I think you'll see that in the next 2 years pretty safely, that voice search and position zero will be part of Amazon's mix. There are ways to monetize and also build some convenience and value for the customers that Amazon services. So in a recap, that's our 2019 predictions from December 18. So over a year ago, and we added some grades. We do that every year, so you can look up in our blog and just Google Anvil digital marketing predictions, and you'll see, many from the last 10 years or so. So that kind of gets us up to speed. Now let's talk about our 10 predictions for this year. Number 1, Amazon will eat Google and Facebook's lunch. So we believe pretty strongly, if you look at the chart below from Business Insider, relatively new chart from fall of 19, is that back in 16, there were 2 players in the ad duopoly, and that was Google being the big 800-pound gorilla and Facebook. And Google's market share has been eaten initially by Facebook, but now both of their lunches are getting eaten by Amazon. And the reason is simply this: Amazon is at the bottom of the sales funnel. People are ready to buy on Amazon. More than half of all product searches start on Amazon, not on Google. And Amazon, not only is the mindset, but they make it very easy to buy. As a result, advertisers are flocking there and spending more and more money because the ROI, the return on investment, is strong. So last year, Amazon generated $10 billion in ad revenue. It is one of the fastest growing aspects of their business. The marketplace revenue is actually flat. The other area of growth is their AWS and their technology platform and hosting. And AI basic businesses are actually growth, but the e-commerce core of their business is actually relatively flat. So look at the advertising revenue to continue to grow. I would predict that in the next, I'd say 2 years, Amazon will surpass Facebook ad revenue, and Google will be probably five years out, will be about even with Facebook, would be my guess. So Amazon makes things easy to buy, even though they don't even have the voice search position zero functionality. The Amazon continues to evolve from their original one-click buy, 14 years ago or whenever it was, to the voice search capabilities of Alexa and their video capabilities with Show. A lot of that's evolving quickly. Now, keep in mind, Amazon controls the customer relationship and the shopping experience, something that that Google and Facebook technically do not by default. So they have all the value in owning the relationship, not the sellers on Amazon, and that shopping experience have massive control. So that leads to more revenue, more profitability opportunities, and more ad revenue from advertisers that see the return on that. So that's prediction number 1. Look for Amazon to continue to gain rapid market share consistently over the next 3 to 5 years. Our second prediction is that animated GIFs and video will replace image ads. So again, one thing to note about our predictions is we like to take a little bit of a chance. Keep in mind, it's really easy to say, advertising will grow or video is important. We want to go out there a little bit and take a little more risk and say GIFs in particular will start to gain significant market share as compared to video and traditional display ads. So we know that images are far more engaging than text. Video is far more engaging than imagery. So GIFs kind of are that middle ground. They're better than images, cheaper and easier than video. So look for a lot of the ad platforms to increasingly adopt a GIF option for the advertising inventory. And generally, more GIF usage on websites. Even though it has trended down more recently, we think it's going to be on the rebound in 2020. So this will be an interesting one to revisit in a year and see how we did. So you can see the click-through rates on video versus non-video. So when it comes to large rectangles, for example, the non-video click-through rate is higher, but generally speaking, video outperforms text and image, everything except for the biggest ads, because for the most part, large rectangles and half-page ads you're not putting video in those ads, and they may be overwhelming. So, so that's kind of what you can look to see there, is more of the animated GIFs supplanting current use of video and images on video. And that's a bit of a stretch goal for this one to be a high grade for this coming year. Our third prediction is about structured data. So if you don't know structured data, it is AKA schema markup used to power rich snippets. And it's a way for Google to understand contextually, or other search engines, what that information is, whether it's your name, your address, your phone number, show time, and event details like location, cost, etc. There's structured markup for everything. And as a result, with more available options for what you can put structured data, wrap around schema around certain data, it makes for greater adoption. The greater the adoption, the more value position zero no-click searches will be. So in search results in Google, both desktop and mobile, you'll see one answer when you ask a question. More and more every day, those are the option above the paid and organic search results, or at least above the organic search results. And often there is not any advertising on these questions. So the position zero or voice search, if you're doing a voice, like a smart speaker request, it'll just read you that answer. And that answer is almost always in some sort of structured data format. So consumers want answers, especially when they're mobile. So they're on a mobile device, they're on a speaker. A large percentage of homes now have at least one speaker, and many of those homes have two or more. At our house, we have 3 Google Home devices. And so there's a lot of talking and turning off of each other's lights in their room and so forth. So good times. And a lot of questions being asked. So brands should be leveraging the schema to be a part of that new conversation. So using the structured data to make sure all information that's consistently created and shared over time is in structured markup, so that it can end up in rich snippets and the Google Knowledge Graph and search results, position zero, no clicks, etc. So we think that this will be the year of structured data. So it's been a long build for the last 3 to 5 years, but this will be a breakthrough year where every brand is thinking about structured markup. So that's prediction number 3. Number 4, Google, we believe that Google will make sure that all sites will be voice search compliant this year by the end of 2020. Right now, 40% of searches are voice activated. So on a mobile device, personal digital assistant, smart speaker. There's been a definite tipping point in the adoption of smart devices, smart speakers. Everybody has a cell phone. All of those have some sort of personal assistant if they're one of the big 3 carriers or manufacturers. Samsung is Bixby, Apple is Siri, and Microsoft, everybody uses their product as Cortana, etc. So with that said, and then more speaker brands are utilizing, they're making theirs both Alexa and Samsung Bixby / Google compliant. So with that said, and Google Assistant is obviously the Google brand. So with that tipping point of so many devices penetrating households, you're going to see more and more opportunities to optimize using schema markup and to get that critical position zero ranking. But what we are actually predicting is that if your website is not voice search compliant, meaning not utilizing key uses, implementations of schema markup, that you may get potentially penalized, is what we're saying. Because we could say rewarded, which is how Google's done it before when they adopted AMP pages. If you made sure your site was mobile responsive 5 years ago, you were rewarded, and then a couple of years ago, you were penalized if you didn't. So that's how they shift behavior and usage. So look for I'd say personally like 20% chance of penalty, but 80% chance of reward if you are schema markup, which makes you voice search compliant. Our fifth prediction, augmented reality will play a bigger role in search engine optimization. So I mentioned this earlier, that augmented reality is much more likely to be a breakout application because it adds a ton of value. VR is like, weird, potentially beyond certain very specific architectural or immersive experience type of brand usage, consumer needs. AR is everyday practical, right? In this case, this visual I'm showing you is how to navigate, say, a Costco or a Walmart or some sort of warehouse to go find what you need. So all of that is going to be easily built into apps because all phones have GPS, effectively a compass and a camera and a screen. So you can navigate your way around and it creates value to know where things are. So I'd say if you want to know what AR is going to look like in the future, just watch 5 seasons of Black Mirror. And if it doesn't scare you to death, it's going to inspire you to see what's coming. It may be in the future, in 5 to 10 years, it might be a contact lens with this information that's remotely slaved to a computer that gives you a sort of similar experience. But today, and for the last couple of years, AR apps have been, like a Pokemon Go sort of thing, but useful is what we're looking for. So look to see a lot of that. And what we're specifically also saying about AR is that there may be more of an opportunity for SEO to benefit from AR. So utilizing AR obviously can help sell online for e-commerce opportunities, help you size a sofa or a bed in your room for IKEA. That sort of thing is already happening. But when it comes to local search and directions, optimizing if somebody's using some sort of new Google app where you're just walking, it gives you all the local restaurants, that kind of functionality has been around for probably a decade. Is it adding advertising or SEO opportunities to optimize your business to show up in that AR app is huge. So that's something that Anvil has been looking at and watching, and we'll continue to keep an eye on, is how do we help get our brands incorporated into other people's apps, not just building their own AR apps, and how to optimize to make sure you can are getting seen above other, say, restaurants, multi-location retailers, et cetera. So SEO will be a part of that, like it is for Amazon and Google and even Facebook. Our sixth recommendation, if you are a marketer, you've heard of the sales funnel, the AIDA, AIDA, awareness, interest, decision, action, or awareness, interest, intent, purchase, whichever. There's like a million different names for it, but the original AIDA funnel was developed in 1898, so not even the 1900s. And more recently, HubSpot in the last year or two has promoted the concept of the Flywheel. So in the theory here is that it's not exactly that customers are in the middle. Obviously, the HubSpot is a marketing automation platform or equivalent of a CRM. So they have a best interest in this Flywheel concept of being in the middle. The information, the data, the customer data, whether they're a prospect or a client, or a customer, I should say, all that data lives in the middle of this kind of tipping the funnel to a top view looking down. And so the idea is you have total strangers coming into your system, and they turn into prospects as they're vetted out. And again, the HubSpot methodology is this email drip, qualify, nurture, convert, and retain model. So when they go from prospect to customer, they're in the system, and the goal is to turn them into promoters. So the equivalent in some of the visuals I've created in the past is the funnel has a bigger funnel moving off the bottom of action that amplifies out again for the evangelists or the promoters, as HubSpot calls them, or other brands. And so the idea is that you want your customers to become your marketers, and then they will tell strangers who quickly become prospects, et cetera. So the idea is that you use your marketing, all kinds of forms of marketing, attract strangers and prospects to your brand. You engage them through a customer relationship, and as you engage them, you start to delight your customers, turning them into promoters, and then they are out there shouting you out. So your marketing department is effectively your customers. And you do that through excellent service, smart marketing, effective sales, and the CRM system in the middle of that. HubSpot would love for you to use them. We use platform called Active Campaign. We've used SharpSpring, Acton, Salesforce, a variety of different platforms in the past. And just make sure the system that you implement or utilize, you're utilizing to the best of your ability, because I've found that marketing automation CRM systems are only as good as their weakest point, which is typically the people. The platforms are all table stakes. They're all very similar. They're ubiquitous. They wouldn't want me to say that, but it's largely true. They all do roughly the same thing. So it's all about the training and the company culture. It's all about your processes, and mainly the content that you use to attract and convert is what matters. So no good content, no worky. So what we're saying is this flywheel model is more modern, it's more relevant, it's very technology focused. I think awareness model, AIDA, was all about probably newspaper ads, billboards, and people yelling, maybe some skywriting, but it wasn't about digital, it wasn't about broadcast. Radio was even a relatively new thing back then. So we think that the flywheel better addresses the customer journey, and we're saying this is probably arguably more of an aspirational hope that marketers will adopt a flywheel methodology away from the more antiquated AIDA model or the sales funnel model. So turn it on its head and look down the funnel and keep in mind this new methodology. And I encourage you to just Google the flywheel or HubSpot flywheel and you can read more about it. Our seventh prediction, push notifications will replace email. Now, again, this is aspirational. It's all get out. Some of our team members are more aggressive than others in taking risks and making broad, big statements. But right now, we know there are 3.5 billion smartphones. So more than half the planet has a smartphone, and many have more than one. They're owned by 42% of the population. Mobile phones are checked daily by owners around 80 times. I mean, I'm no better. I'm OCD, so I'm right there at 80 minimum on a given day. And it's scary. It is our crack. We get to hit a dopamine when we get a notification. We're important. Somebody likes us. As a result, there's a science around the push notifications working, because they have a higher response rate than an email, because they come into your inbox, your inbound tray and your notification tray on your phone. Your phone's always with you. Your computer is not. Your phone has the notifications. Very few people turn them off. I've turned most of mine off because of that distraction element. So we know that if you're, as a brand, you're able to get your customers to download an app or to subscribe to SMS text messages, that these push notifications will be the future opportunity for getting messages through in a timely manner. Again, the response rates are much higher for obvious reasons. So for instance, some of the research shows 65% of mobile users are open to receiving push notifications if they're personal and useful. Well, if you sign up for notifications, inherently, you're going to assume that they're relevant, and unless they're poorly written or poorly timed, they're probably useful. There definitely should be personalized, just like email should be personalized. 68% of consumers who have downloaded a business app have enabled push notifications. What I'd say is generally it's not disabling them versus enabling them that gives you that high adoption rate. And then a full 70% of consumers found all types of push notifications to be valuable. So it's very rare. In fact, only 30% find that they may be invaluable, and that's typically only on a certain app by app basis or use by use basis. So generally, apps make a lot of sense. So will they fully replace email notifications? Not necessarily in the first year. I think this is a sliding scale of saying there will be massive movement this year is what we're essentially predicting for push notifications to displace email notifications. Our eighth prediction, performance metrics will replace likes. So this is a very safe prediction, unlike some of these previous predictions. Instagram hit likes in 2019. Other platforms are likely to follow, although there's only been mainly talk, not a lot of action on that front. Brands are questioning the metrics that are valued, that question of value provided by influencers. So basically, how many likes or followers you have tells one story. How many likes or comments you get on a given post tell another story. But what we're largely seeing is that as well-intentioned as the Instagram hiding likes is, there are some drawbacks, but we like the idea of cleaning up influencer marketing that's been tainted by influencers gaming their likes and their engagement rates to get more money, when in fact they're highly inflated. So what that does is push us and brands to performance metrics to say, hey, you get me this many views or clicks or purchases, I compensate you this way. Now, what that also pushes is what predictions we've made in the past is recently is to go longer term and more authentic partnerships with the influencers. So brands will look long term. And if influencers are looking long term as well, they shouldn't be as concerned about a performance-based metric campaign. So when we look at what the goals are being set by organizations this last year and this year moving forward in 2020 around social media, it's still brand awareness because it's an affordable way to get the word out. It's an even better way. This is more in the last couple of years, brands have realized that they can manage their reputation through social, not just through sculpting and replying and engaging with customers through conversations, but addressing customer service issues, bigger questions or concerns around industry-related issues. And that's outside of things like advertising and influencer marketing. So community is, I think, a really good one. So if you can build a Facebook group for consumer brand or a LinkedIn group for businesses, you can create and curate a community. It can be very effective at generating awareness and thought leadership and preference. And but conversions and sales is number 4 focus and objective for the next year and moving forward. And I think that's where performance metrics will do that, right? And then I'm a big fan. I just taught my social media workshop yesterday. I say that social media is the world's largest focus group. And as a result, this number 5, gain customer insights and market insights, it's excellent for that. It's not directly related to performance metrics, just reminding you that if there are a lot of customers and prospects out there talking about you and your brand and your competitors and your industry, you should be listening. Our 9th prediction for 2020 will be consumers will drive alignment and transparency. So basically, this is building off of our prediction from the previous year of saying that Gen Z is asking for more transparency and honesty from brands and purpose. And what we're saying is that is now in 2020 branching out to all consumers. So the Gen Z influenced Gen Y is influencing now Gen X and boomers to say, we need to make sure that what you're doing out there in your digital landscape, out in your advertising, out in your social graph is aligned with your values, that the influencers you're working with are directly aligned with your core values. And there's transparency. These are influencers. This is an ad. Just being really clear on what content information is yours, what is somebody else's, did you pay for this or not? There's a lot of fuzzy ground there because as of last year, only 11% of influencers, or right around between 10 and 15, 20%, were transparent about the sponsorships or relationships they had with brands and sponsors. That's a huge problem. So what's happened is that has eroded consumers' trust in influencers and in brands. So this drive for alignment and transparency is essential for influencer marketing to survive, and for brands long-term to gain the trust, particularly of Gen X and Gen Y, but also Gen Z and boomers. Brands and influencers have to think long-term about what they're doing in social, not just campaign-based, but long-term based on bigger, broader business and marketing initiatives. So we think that consumers will drive some of the direction on this, and we think that's important. So if you look at it's August 18 or November 18, but check out the US and UK digital marketers' attitudes toward transparency. Basically, there's not a huge amount of understanding of this, and so I think we're going to see in the next year this will change. That brands will understand what they have been doing and what their policies are. Consumers will understand what the brands are doing. Influencers will clearly articulate what they're doing for the brand and for the consumer. So all of that is coming together basically in a nice little package this year. And then our final prediction for 2020, and this is not a very popular stance, but we'll take it. TikTok will lose momentum. So basically, TikTok took the world by storm in 2018, massive growth, doubling in 2019. By the end of 2019, there was a little stumble in March when there was an issue about, the news came out, I believe, about their data sharing into, it's a Chinese-based company. So all this US data and global data is being pushed back into China, and there was some blowback there. We think that the data and security and privacy is less of an issue than the fact that it's a very faddish, limited functionality platform. And that's just, I'll speak for myself on that. I think it's basically a selfie karaoke platform, adding arguably no better value to the consumer and user or brands than Snapchat. And so Snapchat has not really had much buzz this year, and we expect not much more this coming year. So, really it's up to the other big 6 social platforms to pick up ground here, or some new up and comer to start to create the similar buzz with this younger generation that, again, may be highly desirable for many brand advertisers, but that platform makes it very difficult to do effective marketing to individuals, and a lot of them are underage. So that's an issue. So we think that the growth has largely been stagnating a bit, which we'll talk about. We're talking September, October, November, December, Q4. And even though they've been managing to generate some ad revenue, we think that as user engagement declines, so will ad revenue will follow and go elsewhere, like Google and Facebook and maybe even Amazon and some of the other second-tier social platforms. So that wraps up our top 10 digital marketing predictions for 2020. These are a bunch of clickable links. And as an attendee, I'll let you know that within a week or so, we will get this archive version up. And if you email us, we can send you for those that register, we can send you an electronic copy, a link to this, so you can click on the links and follow up. These are a lot of source articles plus our own information about our own predictions. And we hope you'll tune in for our next webinar. Just visit our website for more information. And feel free to check out the rest of the insights section. We have blog posts, articles, ebooks, guides, cheat sheets, in addition to our archived webinars. And feel free to stop to our newsletter as well, when I'll tell you what the upcoming events are. And feel free to reach out anytime for any help with digital marketing. We've got your back. You can email me with questions at kent@anvilmedia.com and visit our website at anvilmediainc.com. And we'll hope to see and hear from you in the near future. Thanks for attending, and we'll talk to you soon.